Hey there, Alana here. I hope things are going well. Today we're going to be talking about some of the benefits of dictation. This will likely turn into a two-parter where after we talk about the benefits of dictation, we can jump on and talk about just some of the how-tos, especially how to get started. It can feel awkward as you're getting started, but I want to start with just sort of some of the reasons and the benefits of dictation that may encourage you to try to test it out. So, biggest reason why I like dictating now, I don't dictate everything. I don't even necessarily dictate the majority, but that is kind of project dependent. So, I really like dictation for the health benefits. I'm the type of person who would spend my entire life pacing if I could. You will never see me on the phone like sitting down. I will be walking around pacing. Same thing if I'm listening to an audiobook or something like that. And what I love about dictation is I can walk around while I'm dictating. It's a lot healthier. It keeps me more active. It gets me more steps in my day, which is good for my physical health. But for me, I'm a pretty kinesthetic learner type. And so being active really helps my creative process as well. Like there's this image of I am in motion, like because I physically am in motion, that helps feed my momentum and keeps me going. And so that's my biggest reason for loving dictation. The reason I got into dictation is because there have been times where my carpal tunnel has flared up so much that I really shouldn't be at the computer at all. And that's even with an okay setup. That's with an ergonomic keyboard and a stand-up desk. And sometimes my carpal tunnel just flares up so much that I know I need to slow down at the computer. And so that's how I got started with dictation, which is another benefit. Way better on your wrists if you're, if you get back pain from being at the computer a lot or from sitting all day. Dictation, where you get up and moving, even if you're not walking around, but at least in a different position than you are all day when you're at your computer, is very beneficial just from an ergonomic standpoint. Another benefit of dictation is it's a lot more portable for most of us. So let's say that you've got 5 minutes while you're waiting in the carpool lane to pick up your kid from school. You could get an app on your phone that will allow you to record what you want to say, and then you can go home, you can transcribe it, you can get it transcribed, or you can run it through a program like Dragon. Those are basically the three ways that you go from like the audio version that you record to what's written. So you can transcribe it yourself, you can hire someone to transcribe it, or you can use a program like Dragon. And again, we will talk more later about how to get started with dictating and things like that. But it's really portable, which is nice. So let's say you only have that 5 minutes. You can pull out your phone, you can dictate some, and then boom, you've got more words written, which leads me to another benefit of dictation, which is it's a lot faster. Once you get the hang of it, you can dictate significantly faster than you can type. And this is basically, as far as I know, this is true for any author. Like I've never heard of an author who says, oh, I don't like dictation, it's too slow for me now. It feels slow and clunky getting started, but once you get the hang of it, pretty much always going to be more words by factors of like 4 times, 5 times the number of words that you could write if you were typing in the same amount of time. So it's good for productivity in a lot of cases once you get the hang of it. One quick thing that you might be worried about is like, how long is it going to take me to get used to dictation? And honestly, for me, it was like a day and a half. It was not as bad as I thought. So don't worry about that. Here's another, though, benefit that I thought, especially for fiction writers and dictation. I found that my dialogue felt so much more natural when I was speaking the words that my characters were going to say. And so when I type dialogue, it comes out one way. When I dictate dialogue, my opinion is it comes out stronger. I feel like it comes out stronger because I can hear audibly, oh, that's not actually how people would say something if I make a mistake. But usually I'll say it more naturally to begin with. So if you struggle with dialogue, especially, go ahead and give dictation a try. And then the one last thing I really like about dictating is There are fewer distractions. So when you're at your computer, you've got everything. You've got, your email and your Wi-Fi and your social media, and like everything's right there. You're budgeting things. There are so many ways to be distracted. So you're writing a chapter and then you say, oh, I wonder how many books I've sold today. So you log on to KDP and get distracted. When you're dictating, when you're doing it the way I do, where you like record it on your phone and then get it transcribed after that, there are fewer chances for you to get distracted. Now, of course, we have distractions on our phones, but usually you aren't dictating with your dictation program open or your recording program open and browsing other things. Like I know, at least for the program I use to record my voice, like it would actually stop the recording if I did that. So I find that it has fewer distractions. And I know a huge part of that for me is what we already talked about at the beginning. Like I'm moving forward, and that makes me feel like I must always be progressing. And I feel like that's another benefit of dictation is you can hear a silent pause that lasts for more than 30 seconds or 10 seconds. You don't necessarily notice those pauses when you're typing. And so I find that when I'm dictating, it almost forces me to want to just go faster. It's a little bit more stream of consciousness, which also allows me to censor myself less, right? That's another benefit. You don't go back and change typos or things like that. It's only forward motion. So those are all some of the benefits of dictation. Next up, we can talk about how to get started, and we'll talk to you soon. Hello, welcome back. We're going to continue our discussion. So we just talked about some of the benefits of dictation, and now it's going to be some tips for getting started with dictation, because you can feel a little rusty, and it might be one of those things where you feel like you're going slower at the very beginning. In my case, it only took a day or two before I started to feel really comfortable even dictating all of the punctuation and things like that. So don't feel like it's going to take you months to get into or anything. So basically, from the time you dictate, and you can do that sort of however you want. I like to use a phone app that's just a plain old voice recording app. So just search your phone for a voice recorder that's got good reviews. I do recommend that you use a microphone and the best quality that you've got, or else it can pick up some outside noise, which can make the transcription a little bit harder. So once you have that, there are 3 things that you can do with your audio file. You can choose to transcribe it yourself. A lot of authors will do this, and when you do it this way, your dictation doesn't have to really be perfect. You could even dictate it something like, John and Mary gazed into each other's eyes. Now put a sentence here about how much they love each other, and maybe a description of what she's wearing. You know what I mean? So you can write yourself notes in the dictation, and as you're transcribing it, you can write the things that you say, and you can also add on to it. So in this way, your dictated form can be almost like a very, very extended outline. It doesn't have to be perfectly thought out, right? You can dictate parts of it, and then you can say things like, add witty dialogue here. And as you're transcribing, you can be the one to add that witty dialogue. Another way that you can do it is you can hire somebody, either somebody you know or through a service, to transcribe it for you. There are some pretty well and reasonably priced transcription services. I've done this before on Fiverr, Fiverr, I think it is, where a decent rule of thumb to what you can expect to pay is maybe about $1 or $2 per minute. So if you have an hour-long dictation, that can cost you, maybe in the $30 to $60 range. It can get a little pricey if you're going to do an entire book that way, but it definitely is an option. So the other way to do it would be to use some type of AI transcription service. Dragon Naturally Speaking has been the most well-known, and for a long time, at least if you were on a PC, the most exact, that would give you the best output in terms of how accurate it was. I've not heard great things about using it for Mac, although I think they might be improving. And actually now there are many types of services that are doing something similar, and they are getting more and more accurate. So my prediction is that like by the end of 2021, there will be your choice of, dozens of services where you upload your audio file and you get back a manuscript that's like up to 95% accurate. Now that's kind of the going rate for a lot of these services. I've never gotten that accurate. What they mean by that is like for every 100 words, only 5 of them are going to be the wrong word. They're definitely getting more accurate, but I don't know if it's because I mumble or what. Mine are never that accurate. And so what you might choose to do is a little bit of a hybrid approach where you run it through a transcription service and then either you touch it up while you listen to the file or you hire somebody to touch it up while you listen to the file. And a lot of the AI services actually offer this. The other transcription service that I have used that works pretty well is called Descript, Descript. I actually use it to edit my audio files for the Successful Writer podcast and things like that. I don't use it for book dictation, but you could. And what it does is it offers you the transcription through AI, but you can also pay a little extra to get what they call the white glove treatment, where somebody is going to come in and actually, make it correct for you. So there are some hybrid approaches as well. The one thing to keep in mind, if you're using something like Dragon Naturally Speaking, you actually are going to end up having to dictate the punctuation, or else you're going to kind of have a mess that might not save you much time to clean up. So some of them are pretty straightforward. So you would say comma, and you would say period, and you would say question mark as you write. If you're ready for a paragraph break, you say new line. It feels like something that's going to slow you down, but let me just give you kind of an example of like once you get the hang of it, it's really not bad. So, comma, I'm going to dictate a few lines for you, period. This is going to allow you to see how easy it can be, period. Do you get how easy it can be once you get used to it, question mark, new line. I hope so, period. Right? It's not too bad. You can get to where it just kind of rattles off that quickly. And like I said, for me, the training was only like a day or two. Where it gets a little bit more clunky is when you get dialogue, because you have a lot of line breaks, you have a lot of punctuation. You need to say open quote and close quote. So that would be like, John looked at her and said, comma, open quote, what are you doing? Question mark, close quote, new line. She looked at him in surprise, period. Oh my, exclamation mark. Actually, I would have to say, open quote, oh my, exclamation mark, close quote. She exclaimed with her hands on her cheeks, right? That's the part that feels a little clunkier, but like we talked about previously, I actually really like doing dialogue through dictation just because it makes the words that my characters are saying a lot more natural sounding and realistic. But that's the one area where adding in all of the punctuation things can be a pain. So if you don't want to handle that, then your options would be either transcribing it yourself or hiring someone to transcribe it, in which case you really don't need to worry as much about punctuation and things like that. And just remember, with the transcription service, it's kind of sort of, you get what you pay for, right? So if you find something dirt cheap where they're going to transcribe your hour MP3 file for $5, it's probably not going to be as great and accurate and well edited as somebody you pay a little bit higher. So I hope that gives you some ideas of how to start with dictation. Another thing that you can do, if you feel really, really uncomfortable when you start dictating, like the thought of talking out loud with nobody listening, if that makes you really uncomfortable, here's a couple tips you can try. One is you can try using the same headset that you use when you talk to your friends on the phone. If you're a phone talking person, it will feel more natural to you. Another thing that you can do to get started is to actually get a novel or to get a book or an article or whatever and dictate that, or dictate something that you've already written, like read it off the page, but you would be reading it with the punctuation if you're doing something like Dragon where you need practice dictating the punctuation. And so like you can open up Alice in Wonderland and read a couple chapters of Alice in Wonderland with all of the punctuation marks that you see there on the page. And that's another way that it might get you a little bit more comfortable with the idea of dictating. It shouldn't take you too long. And the other great thing with something like Dragon Naturally Speaking is it learns from its mistakes. And so it does get more and more accurate as you go. So I hope that gave you some good tips for getting started with dictation. If that's something that you do choose to do, I hope that you have wild success with it and that it turns into something that you really enjoy.